Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. I am Naren Arul Raja, one of the co hosts of this podcast dedicated to helping practices that are tangled up with insurance. We talk about topics that help you take more control and create a bigger and better future for you, your patients, and of course, your team members. Today, my guest is my dear friend Ben Tuinei. And the topic we're going to be talking about is, are insurance plans finally making big changes for the new year? Are insurance plans finally making big changes for the new year? Before I jump into my topic, I want to welcome my guest. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, Darren, doing very well. Thank you, sir. How are you? Great to chat with you again.
Same here. Looking forward to our conversation. So let's jump right in. We have some interesting things to go through. So my first question is, now that we are in 2024, how are insurance plans responding to the mass exodus of doctors going out of network? I'm starting with the big one.
Yes. It's interesting there, and is for years, and this seems to be true for any major corporation, right? Whenever there's some pressure coming in from outside, a lot of times groups tend to they just hold their ground. They don't let outsiders control how they do business, right? In this case where you have the mass exodus of doctors going out of network, the doctors have been asking for fee increases for decades. So this is nothing new. The only difference is that since the pandemic in 2020, a lot of doctors have been more motivated to go out of network because of the rising cost to operate practice, right?
Yeah.
So finally, just within the last 6 months, I've seen, I'm not allowed to talk specifics because I've had a lot of insurance companies reach out to me directly, and I still have a bunch of scheduled meetings early this year with a lot of the major carriers so that they can sort of pitch their changes, right? Pitch their changes in a way that people like myself can be helpful to them. But at the end of the day, if those changes are not one that provide relief for the doctors financially, right, in terms of better reimbursements, some relief on the denials that the doctors are getting, because we're still seeing a lot of denials, a lot of unnecessary denials, engagements by the insurance carriers to sort of change definitions or other things to make it difficult for doctors to get paid. So we've already started to see those changes in the last couple of years. But this year, we'll make an official announcement once I have confirmation that some of the things that I can talk about aren't bound under confidentiality. Mind you, this is a public forum, so whatever I say here, insurance companies are going to listen to, and I want to honor and respect, what they're asking of me in terms of confidentiality. But what I can say is, number one, I'm most certainly on the side of dentists in terms of advocacy, right? What I'm being told by the insurance industry at large is that there are going to be major changes to basically address the fact that there's a problem that doctors leaving in networks. To me, it's a correction, but to the insurance industry, it's a major problem and it's a major threat, because if insurance companies don't have in-network providers or start to see a reduction of in-network providers, it becomes much more challenging for them to compete and sell dental plans. And even the Deltas and the Blue Crosses of the world, who have the largest provider networks nationwide, even those companies are looking to make some big changes this year in an effort to stop that attrition of in-network providers, right? So to answer your question, yes, the insurance industry has been really afraid, and it is a major concern for them that so many doctors are leaving the network, to where they're going to be putting together some policy changes to help prevent doctors from going out of network. In other words, the changes are going to be designed to make in-network a lot more friendly, right? Because I feel like the insurance industry has no choice, because the doctors have spoken. And what the doctors are saying now is that they're not tolerating what they call abuse on the part of the insurance industry by going out of network. And that so far is causing a correction in the market. So yeah, so I'm hoping that 24 is going to be a good year with these changes. And then, of course, you'll hear about these changes on our podcast as soon as I have approval, at least an agreement, not approval, agreement with the insurance carriers to share these changes in a way that won't violate my confidentiality agreements.
Thank you. Let me ask you, so can you give a glimpse of what these changes are? Not really. I know you said confidentiality, so you can't really talk about them.
Yeah, I can sort of skirt around them without talking about them directly. But if you look at the pain points of what doctors experience, right, what they're complaining about, which
Yeah.
what they're complaining about is what their numbers are telling them to complain about, right? You know, the margins, the profit margins are significantly reducing. There are a lot of procedures that doctors do that they have to pay to do a procedure, right, on a patient that has insurance. A lot of doctors can't afford hygienists these days. So it's surprising to me the number of doctors I talk to these days that don't have hygienists. They do their own hygiene, and they've sort of figured out a model to be a single doctor, right? With a skeleton crew, and without hygienists, you know. And for most doctors, they make it work, right? But it's still a pain point because, you know, if you have the traditional model where there's hygiene that's feeding the doctor production and a lot of hygiene so that you have a lot of production for doctors, I think a lot of doctors want to go back to that. So the changes that we're seeing are addressing those basic issues, right? In terms of the affordability to sustain people in the practice to treat patients, right? And that's the key thing, is that if you don't have people, qualified people in the practice, patients won't get treated. Patients will get sicker. We'll start to see a rise in, you know, perio problems. You know, the Centers for Disease Control has already told us that we have a problem. More than 50% of adults in the United States have periodontal disease. And they view that as a major problem because there's a connection between how that affects utilization on the medical side of things, right? When people have terrible oral health, they have all kinds of other, well, there's a possibility scientifically that they have other issues, right? Or that their poor oral health could lead to those issues. So the insurance industry, traditionally, they really did do a good job communicating, like dental and medical. Those two entities, you know, they never got together, at least to my knowledge, in a meaningful way to look at changes to help each other, right? And at the end of the day, what seems to be the focus now is preventative, right? So you see entities like Delta Dental of Washington, as an example, and they changed their fee model to reward doctors when doctors focus on preventative, right? Keeping patients active and things of that nature. So I guess that's a model. It's not perfect, but you have seen in the state of Washington doctors getting fee increases ranging from 5 to 10% under that model, right? So the insurance industry is collaborating on these issues to sort of find different ways to make it a win-win situation where they don't have to inflate prices to the employers, to accommodate what the dentists need in terms of compensation reimbursement, and quick claim solutions so that they're now waiting forever to get paid on your money. But it's all the things that we already know, right? All the pressure points that dentists are already feeling, that those things are being looked at very seriously by those that are paying claims in an effort to make it more of a less painful experience. I'm not going to say it's going to be a perfect solution on what they're developing, but it is one that will help contribute towards the pain points that doctors are feeling as it pertains to dealing with insurance companies these days.
Let me ask you this. You have heard this, I'm sure, before from insurance companies. Do you think they actually will solve the problems and doctors are going to be happy, or do you think they'll just do the bare minimum they need to do and it's the same old, same old?
That's a good question. You know, when it comes to relationships like this, nobody's going to be happy, right? 100% happy. The insurance carriers, when every time their fee increases that they issue, they're not happy about that. Doctors are happy, but even with the fee increases that do come, doctors are still not 100% satisfied. So you're never going to get to a point where the insurance carriers and the doctors are going to love each other, right? And be friends at a level of like what you would imagine true friends be. There's always going to be that contention, right? But at the end of the day, I guess the word
I
that
think
comes
what I'm hearing is like it's a step in the right directions, possibly.
yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but there's going to be compromise. There's going to be massive amount of compromise on the part of, well, the doctors have already been compromising. But there's
Exactly.
going
They
to
have
be,
been doing that for 40
yeah,
years, right?
yeah,
I mean,
it's
like they're getting the same money paid by the insurance
right,
company today than they did like 20 years ago. I mean, 30 years
yeah.
ago, literally, it's crazy. But the cost of living in those 20, 30 years have gone up,
Oh
you know,
yeah,
three,
Yeah.
four, five times. So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So it has always been this, you know, the bullying the weak, for the last 40 years. I guess my question is that going to change, or is it going to be the, it's still the bully and still the weak, and that's how they see doctors, just, the weak.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And that's what we tell the insurance industry is like, look, you've been taking advantage of these poor doctors for decades, right? And they know it.
Right.
They at the end of the day, they have their fiduciary responsibilities to somebody else, not to the
Exactly.
doctors. And, s-
Exactly.
and that's the thing that doctors have to recognize is that you are not in your best interest is not in their minds. They don't really, I mean, they look at the numbers. Do they really
Yeah.
care about how profitable you are?
Yeah.
Do they really care if they pay you, on a hygiene appointment $80 and you're paying your hygienist $85 an hour?
Yeah.
No, those things have never been in consideration. So they are taking care of their employers, their clients.
Yeah.
So there's
And of course, they are taking care of the people at the very top who make millions and millions
yes,
of dollars.
shareholders
Yeah.
and not-for-profit organizations like Delta, the executives are the ones
Yeah.
that win.
Exactly. Exactly.
And there's so much intolerance and protest going on by the doctor community right now that I feel like the insurance companies are really afraid. They're really afraid of losing those year-end bonuses, right? They're afraid of the looking
Yeah.
good to
That's what's
Wall Street,
motivating.
right?
That's what's motivating them. It's nothing to do
Yeah,
with doctors. It's just
exactly.
something they can tell whoever their powers of bees are, well, we are
Yeah,
doing something.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, you're right. It's never going to be the primary focus of insurance companies, these doctors, right? Because it was
absolutely.
not the case for the last 40 years,
Yep.
and that's not going to change.
Yeah, it's not going to change. Well, so the changes, the good positive change, yeah, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But so my prediction is it's not gonna be enough for most.
Hmm.
It's gonna be okay for some, which is like surprisingly right now, there's a lot of doctors that are okay with the low reimbursements that they have, right? When they look at their numbers, they're like, yeah, we're profitable. And they don't, it's not a focus for them, which is kind of sad because if you don't focus on these issues,
Yeah.
it's kind of like how, we treat our countries, right? Our policies. The
Yeah.
policies that we create today are going to affect our children and grandchildren in the future. So this is the same. If doctors don't take a hard stand now, then your
Hmm.
children and their children that get in dentistry are going to be screwed.
Yeah.
you know. But the good news is that there's enough doctors that have engaged in meaningful protests against insurance companies to where these changes are now the big changes that we've been wanting. I think this is going to open the door for those things to continue to these changes continue to happen over time. But who knows? I'm hoping the insurance industry surprises all of us with changes that are really positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my hope. Is it going to happen? I don't know. Am I 100% positive that doctors are going to be happy with this? Absolutely not. Not everybody's going to be happy with it, but it's going to help. I think it's still going to help.
Right. Let me ask you this question. I think one of the things they don't like is these quote unquote representatives who negotiate on behalf of doctors. There's been a rumor that they want to get rid of it. Is that true, or will it happen this year?
Yeah, yeah. So third-party companies that represent doctors, only a handful of insurance carriers have been pushing for no representation. This is what
This again goes back to this bully
yeah.
mentality, right? It's like you are this little kid, you can't bring your brother or your older kid with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to come to the back of the yard where nobody sees us. I'm going to beat the living daylights out of them.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. Like, it's just they are who they are and how they see the doctors. I don't think
Yeah,
it's changing. Until that changes,
yeah.
it's like, like that. You are always a little kid. It's just unfortunate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's sad because we live in a country that is all about representation. This country, I mean most countries and including Canada where you're at, a
Yeah.
lot of these countries were founded based upon having representatives to represent the people,
Yeah.
at the highest level of government. And that model has continued. So, back in I think it was in the 60s and 70s where sports agents started to surface, right? a new career called sports agents, and most
Yeah.
professional clubs like baseball, football clubs, they rejected the sports agents, right? They would
Right.
rather work with the athletes directly because, and this is so important for doctors to know, is that because the clubs wanted to abuse the players by negotiating with them, knowing that they did not have the negotiating skills
Right.
to match that of the attorneys that were writing the contracts for the players. And this is not an insult to Dennis. The truth of the matter is that Dennis need help with legal framework for the practice, as well as negotiations with fees. Like there are some dentists that spend time and they do a fantastic job, but the vast majority don't have the time, right, or the means to be able, or the understanding to do it, which is one of our missions on this podcast, is to educate the doctors on how to deal with these things. But the insurance industry has been trying to take advantage of that by not letting you have representation, which to me is a very immoral policy. That's going to change this year too. We've already started to see a lot of the insurance carriers be more accommodating, simply because if they don't work with third parties, most good third party firms that represent doctors, they're not going to let up. They're still going to find ways to push forward negotiations for their clients, right? So
So
these
you're
delays,
saying there are some insurance companies that today will not negotiate with a representative because again they know that they don't want the big brother showing up, they want the little guy showing up. But you're
yeah,
saying it's
yeah.
changing, is it? You think
Oh
that
yeah, it's
change? Okay.
changing because I think the insurance companies are aware that
Let me
professionals
ask you
are
this.
still there, right? Helping the doctor all throughout the whole thing, even though the insurance companies communicating with the doctor directly, the doctor's not alone. The doctor still has somebody coaching them, right?
Got it. Got it. Is it illegal, like forcing somebody to not bring some? It's like saying, come to court, but don't bring a lawyer. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It just absolutely like you're on trial for your life, but you can't bring a
Yeah,
lawyer.
yeah. So that's
Or
actually
you
good.
can only use the lawyer that we can give you. It's just ridiculous, right? I mean,
So I've actually interviewed hundreds of attorneys, several judges on this issue, and I got
yeah,
mixed feedback. So this is the interesting thing, the stance from the legal community is that, almost half of the attorneys out there say everybody has a right to representation, right?
yeah.
And so those attorneys are saying there are laws that protect people in the sense that when you go to court, nobody can tell you that you can't have a representative. It's illegal for somebody to grill you in court without you having a representative, unless it's
Even like police
uh
can't interrogate you unless you waive your right for an attorney, right? I mean, like,
correct,
I mean, if
correct,
police can't do that, even when they are
right,
100% suspicion you just
yeah,
committed a murder. Like, I mean,
yeah,
imagine the rest. Like, I think
yeah.
we should have some protection. If
Right, right. So half of the attorneys are of that mindset that
okay,
everybody's entitled to representation. The other
right,
half agree. Although there's a licensing thing. They say, well, what you do in dentistry isn't actually regulated by the government. So, you don't have a licensing regulation, right, for what you do. You can be an attorney and
what do you mean? There is
invoke.
a license. You have to have a license to be a dentist.
No, no, for people like me. Like I don't need to be an
Okay,
attorney to represent a doctor to negotiate their fees, right? So
okay,
the industry as a whole has not, well, I should say the laws. They don't restrict people like me that are not attorneys from being able to legally represent the dentist. All I need is a power of attorney, right? And you don't need to have power of attorney privilege. You don't need to be an attorney to have power of attorney privileges in the United
right.
States. So the other half are saying, well, because there are no laws that would require you to be licensed to do what you do, represent, the refusal to accept you as the representative, the insurance carriers have that right because it's an unregulated aspect of a business, well, unregulated aspect of, you know, services, right? There's no licensing requirement. So yeah, so doctors have right to representation and they can push it. But at the end of the day, it seems to me that the insurance industry has a right to push back by saying, well, this is not a regulated part, so we can do whatever we want, as long as you don't break the
Mhm.
law. So we're going to say no to your representative, right?
Right.
But there are ways around hearing no from an insurance carrier. And I think that's what's driving the change, is that they've tried to block doctors from having representation, and that doesn't work. anymore. In fact, it
Right.
infuriates doctors and pushes doctors to even want to terminate the PPO contract even more, right? So it's backfired on the insurance industry in the sense that trying to block representation is not working for them.
Yeah. As I bring this to a close, I'm going to ask you two questions. The very first question is, we know the last few years have not been normal, right? In terms of overheads going up significantly for dental practice owners. From wages, supplies, you name it, everything is like 30-40% more expensive than it was in 2020. Of course, the PPO reimbursements have not gone up 30-40%, as we also know. So what's your take on what can dentists do to remain competitive in this environment? What's your advice to dentists?
Absolutely, yes. So my recommendation as it pertains to dealing with insurance is number one, obviously you have to negotiate your fees and you have to be on top of that and be very aggressive. These days, a lot of doctors, I hear this quite a bit when I recommend, hey, you need to optimize your contract. You need to cancel MetLife and renew it under an umbrella affiliate to get a better fee schedule. And a lot of doctors respond by being fearful about that temporary out of network. And when I give them the stats, so this is kind of the part where it's frustrating for me because the statistics they don't lie. I don't make them up, right? When you share the statistics with doctors about how beneficial that's going to be, including out of network recommendations, you still get a number of them that reject that, right? That they don't want to do it because those statistics don't.
So you're recommending go out of network, right? That's what you're recommending in some cases.
In a large part, yes, but
Okay.
for many of those that are fearful about going out of network, optimizing your contracts in cases where PPOs that need to be optimized don't negotiate with you directly or don't negotiate the best increases, you have to be very aggressive about your PPO strategy.
Got it.
Gone are the days of you having sort of a light strategy to help you survive. In my opinion, you have to be aggressive to thrive in a big way. Out of network is likely to be a solution for most.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview recently, and it's it's a pretty interesting interview on investing, and he talked about Lyft versus what do you call Uber, right?
Uber, yep.
Uber's strategy is aggressive, 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 and eventually the CEO was kicked out because they were quote unquote too aggressive. And Lyft's strategy was, we are the nice guys, we are the nice guys, we are the nice guys, right? But eventually Uber won. And the point that this professor of finance was making is, in some businesses, being the nice guy doesn't work, And I think maybe after 40 years of abuse from the insurance companies, either you get out of the PPO plans that's abusing you, or you negotiate, hard. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and I agree. You have to have a warrior in your corner. You really have to push hard. The nice guy strategy, you're absolutely correct, especially in business. The nice guys always get abused. They always get pushed around. And it's done strategically where you don't really feel like you're being pushed around because you're content with the status quo, right? But you're being taken advantage of. That's exactly how the insurance industry has treated dentistry since insurance has started. So yes, you have to be aggressive, professionally aggressive, right? And have some aggression that helps build the practice. And negotiating and going out of network are two quick and two very simple solutions that I think should be a major focus for most dentists this year.
Yeah. Do you know what the stock price of Uber is versus Lyft?
What is it now?
Uber is $130 billion is the market cap. Guess what Lyft is?
Is it half?
$5 billion. Not
Case in
half.
point. Yeah.
Not half. So let's do the math. So it's 26 times more. So
Yeah.
$1, if you have put $1 into Lyft stock and $1 into Uber stock, the Lyft stock would be worth $1 and
Yeah.
Uber stock would be worth $26.
Jeez. So that's the difference between aggressive and passive, right?
Passive, yeah. And we sometimes think being the nice guy is the way to be. And doctors are nice because they have to be nice with patients, their employees. I get it. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with insurance, maybe that's not the right way to think about things.
That's a very good analogy, and because that kind of speaks to what I've been trying to say, Naren, on that last question. You said it more effectively than I did. with that Uber and Lyft comparison, but that's true. Aggressive business owners, they're not always liked by the vendors or everybody else, but the vendors and insurance companies deal with you. They deal with you from the perspective of respect and a little bit of fear to make sure that they make you happy, right? So be aggressive.
As we bring this to a close, I wanted to ask you any resources, anything you can recommend as if somebody really understands the game, understands, how lopsided it is in favor of PPO plans. Like I'm a practice owner, like where do they start on like taking responsibility, taking charge?
Absolutely. So this is our initiative as well for this year as an organization. And so what I would recommend if doctors have, if what you've heard is of interest and you have questions or you have some problems with insurance that you're dealing with, we have a team of experts that can step in and help, provide some solutions for you. Just contact us, request a call or consultation. If you go to veritasdentalresources.com, you can request a consultation and include what questions you have or what areas of opportunity or things that you heard on this podcast that you want to discuss, whatever it may be. Just book a time with me or Tessina, and we'd be 100% happy to sort of help guide you through any of the insurance challenges, help you build a plan of action for this year in terms of insurance strategies that'll help you get to the next level. So all the things that we talk about, of course, we can talk about in greater length and more detail on a consultation call. So visit veritasdentalresources.com to book a consult.
Thank you very much, Ben. I really appreciate it. I learn a lot from you, and I know you have the latest and the greatest information when it comes to what's happening in the world of PPOs. So appreciate for sharing all of that. I also want to take a minute to thank our listeners. Without you, we wouldn't have what we have today, an awesome podcast, and we do quarterly events as well. So thank you for everything you do to support us. As the name suggests, Insurance Untangled is for anyone who's tangled up with insurance. Like, how can you untangle yourself? How can you hopefully create some competitive advantages, even when you're dealing with these huge corporations that are 1,000 times bigger than you, these PPO plans. So thank you again. Till we meet again, have a wonderful week ahead. If you like this podcast, share it with your friends and colleagues. Write a review for us. We look forward to seeing you in another amazing episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. See you.